This is my favorite apple, Empire. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Well, I ordered these shortly after I moved here, maybe 5 years after I moved here. I used to have a lot of apple trees in here, but this one has really done well. It produces every year. It's not one of those that produces every other year, like a lot of apples do, but it always has a crop. It ripens around September. It's a red apple, and it's just excellent flavor and crispy, really crispy. So that is my favorite apple.
Okay, what are some of the other varieties that you
I
have?
have Wolf River. It's an 1800s variety, huge apple. I've got Golden Delicious, and I've got one that I named Q. It was supposed to be Northwest Greening, and it was marked Northwest Greening, but it is not a Northwest Greening. I have no idea what it is, so I named it Q for question.
Okay.
But it is another excellent apple. It's my second favorite apple. And then I have a few apples I've grafted on to my Wolf River, and I'm getting ready to graft onto another apple I have over here. I just pruned off some of the big branches this spring, and now they've got new growth. That's where I'll graft onto next spring.
So is the spring the best time to do your grafting?
The grafting I do, yes. It has to be done in the spring, but there is a different type of graft you can do in August. I'm just not good at doing that one. It's a bud graft, they call it. I don't know how to do that one very well, so I just stick to my spring grafting.
Do these trees, do you need to have a pollinator tree blooming at about the same time to get a good crop?
Yeah, I think so. But I have enough trees here blooming all the time, so I don't worry about it. The pears are a different story. They definitely need a pollinator, the one I have.
Well, these trees are out in the open. Do you have trouble with critters?
Yeah, the deer. And even the rabbits. I've got a fairly good sized tree that had a trunk like that. The rabbits girdled the trunk one year, and mice.
What do you do to prevent the damage?
Well, in the fall of every year, I wrap with tinfoil. That's my wrap for protecting the trees, but the mice just chew the tinfoil. I didn't realize they would do that, but they did. But the rabbits won't bother them. Take a long sheet and start at the base and spiral it up the tree, and then I squeeze it. And it stays on by itself easy.
Okay. How about the deer? Because they can stand on their hind
Well,
legs.
they'll chew on anything that's handy. They're browsers, they're whatever's handy. Oh, I'll eat that. You just deal with a little loss here and there. And that's the trouble with my apricots too. So they won't ever get any more than this tall unless you protect them from the deer in the summertime. In the summertime, the rabbits don't bother. So I don't have to worry about them in the summer, but wintertime, definitely. I just started some new seedlings 3 years ago in the spring from seed. And first I put a 3-foot fence around the whole works, the whole row. And then I even put a higher fence. So I got 6 feet of chicken wire fence around those new apricots so the deer cannot mess me up again. I started over so many times you can't believe it.
Well, do you have any trouble with insect or disease issues?
Not on the apricots. The apples, I get a few worms in the apples, but I just eat around them. I'm organic, so I don't spray.
What do you do with all your harvest?
I eat all I can.
Okay.
And I give away the rest.
Okay.
Yep,
Al, do you have other fruits too?
I sure do. I got pear trees, I want to show you them. And I have plums, raspberries. The raspberries just got done. It's too bad you didn't get to taste them, but they're really good too. But the pear, that's pretty interesting. This is Waterville pear, right there, and it took many, many years before I ever got a crop. They just don't bloom early in their life, I guess. That's what I was told. Pears are very fickle about blooming in in the early stages of their lives. So I waited probably 20 years since I planted this thing before I ever got a bloom. And then I didn't have a pollinator. So I asked Jody Olson if she would let me have a piece of her pear tree, and I grafted it on this one. And it finally bloomed this year, but I hadn't had a bloom before. And this one finally gave me a full tree of blossoms this year, and I had no pollinator. I didn't think I would have Jody's tree either blooming, but so I asked a friend of mine in Canby if I could borrow some of his branches, and he says, sure, take all you want. And then I got 4 or 5 branches from his trees, put them in a 5-gallon bucket down at the base of this tree, and walked away. And the pear finally got done blooming. Even the blossoms in the bucket were still blooming. But I noticed all of a sudden I've got pears setting on the whole tree. And this side of the tree where the bucket sits, I had the most pears. The opposite side had a few. And the top, none. So it worked, just using branches from another tree, setting it underneath the tree in a 5-gallon bucket full of water.
So what was Jody's?
Jody's is luscious. And I did bloom a few days later than this, but it was, I think it even helped pollinate a few. So we got some pollination, finally, and a crop.
Do you notice a difference between the luscious and the Waterville?
Well, hers is light green, and mine, as you can see, has a darker green and red on it. So they're totally different pears, very obvious it's a different pear, but it's just my grafting.
Wow, that's just wonderful. Do you have plants to encourage pollinators to come and fertilize all of your fruits?
I don't plant anything specifically, but we didn't have hardly any bees this spring either. I think maybe just flies or whatever insects landed on those flowers, it worked.
It looks like you have a lot of prairie plants here though too.
Well, this is my asparagus plot, and I put this in really early when I first moved here. Maybe the 3rd or 4th year after I moved here, I put this asparagus patch in. It's dwindled down to very few asparagus plants, but you can see them. And I get a good harvest every year. I never worry about having asparagus. And we eat asparagus every day. So since it is dwindling, I did plant a new asparagus plot this spring, 44 more plants, so we'll have lots.